Кончится жизнь, начнется война, близится смерть, горят города, гражданские люди идут некуда. Без разницы возраст война не щадит, назначено время ты будешь убит, и воздух пропитан кровавой смолой, но скоро, поверь мне, вернемся домой.
A little leaky bowl. Annie early was left without a mother, so she didn't remember her mother. Her father soon died, and the 6-year-old girl was completely alone in an empty house. It just so happened that nobody needed her. The neighbors' women fed the child secretly from their husbands, but no one wanted to take this girl to them. Annie, Aunt Manya ran in home somehow. "Give me a little bowl. I'm giving you poor milk." A joyful girl brought a bowl. A neighbor poured milk generously. Annie thought, "Now I will be fed for 3 days." They were talked a little about life, but when girl returned home, she saw that the bowl was empty and there was a big puddle of milk under the table. The bowl turned out to be a hole. The girl cried. She sobbed so bitterly that Kolya, who was the boy she sometimes played with, heard her. "Why are you crying?" the boy asked girl. Annie, weeping her teeth, complained to a friend. "Don't cry," the boy ordered. "Let's go to my mother. She will feed me and feed you at the same time. She is kind." So Annie understood a simple truth. A true friend will never leave you in trouble. But once Kolya didn't come for Annie. The girl waited for him, and then she decided to go to the friend. Suddenly the girl found a strange picture. Kolya was lying in a white clean shirt on the bed, and his relatives were crying nearby. "Kolya, let's go play," the girl called her friend, but Kolya didn't move, and his hands were very cold. Adults tried to explain girl why Kolya couldn't go out, but Annie didn't understand how her cheerful, kind friend could die, who she would play with. The air temperature in the house was low. All the time Annie wanted to eat. The girl wandered around the village during the day, hoping that someone would regret and feed, but no, and she went to bed hungry. At this time, in a neighboring village, a couple mourned without children. They were about to take the child from the orphanage, as a neighbor told them the story of Annie. "This girl is such a good, smart, neat, funny. You should hurry up, otherwise tomorrow they will take her to the orphanage." Fyodor and Lena, without hesitation, ran after the child, so Annie got Dad and Mom. They loved the child very much, pampered her, bought things, but this happiness lasted only 5 years. When Annie was 11 years old, the war began. Fyodor left to fight against the fascists, and 2 months later the Germans entered their village. The fascists raked out all the food, cattle. They assigned policies to observe the behavior of citizens. Children hid in the cellars that served as their bomb shelter. The Germans came and went. Shells exploded nearby. A sister came to Annie's mother. She fled from the war from Ukraine. A shell fragment fell into her leg, and she died from a mortal wound. There was nothing to eat. The kids ran to the abandoned fields, and from the snow picked up frozen beets and carrots. Once a German appeared in front of her. The girl was scared. "Don't be afraid," the German said by broken Russian. "Take it," and he handed her a candy. Annie had already forgotten the taste of sweets, but still she didn't dare to take the sweets from the German. Why was he so kind? They all raked out all food from our people, didn't leave breadcrumbs, and here such generosity. The German seemed to read her thoughts. "Don't be afraid," he repeated. "I don't want a war. I have a family at home. I miss children. Our government want a war. We don't want to." The girl took the candy and silently looked into the back of the departing enemy. She didn't know what to do with the gift, and conscience didn't allow her to eat it, but must judge in her own way. This German is not an enemy. He doesn't want to kill anyone. That means nothing to do with candy. If you eat it, Daddy would not be offended by us. Annie carried an armful of old branches, thought that there was something to heat the stove when a gardener came across to meet her. "Hello, grandfather," said Annie. "Hello, Annie," answered the gardener. "How is your mom?" "She is better already. But nothing. Soon our partisans will come and expel the Germans. Then we will be full enough." "You don't say such things, you out loud. You can be given by them out," the old man said sternly. "No, they won't give me away," Annie shook her head. "Everyone knows that you are helping the partisans and are silent. Policies asked everyone who knows what, but no one betrayed." "Wow, secrets!" the gardener laughed. "I would also like to become a partisan. Take me to the partisans." Gardener laughed. "You quietly try to come to me in the evening. You will receive a real partisan's mission." The girl understood that you should not tell anyone about this. In the evening she quietly made her way to the gardener's house and knocked as he had taught her. Gardener let the girl come into the house. "I'm hidden nearby two partisans. One of them is wounded. The other nurses him. It is necessary to take food and warm clothes. The policy has been looking at me intently lately. I'm afraid that he is guessing that he can track them down, and nobody will pay attention to you. To go to the partisans was not far. In the attic in the hay of an abandoned barn. Frosts at night stood above 40 degrees, so that if the girl had not brought old fur coats, the partisans could freeze. She did everything as the old man told her, left food and clothing at the entrance, knocked and ran away. The gardener instructed Annie to carry food to the Verkin's hand and his comrade every day. The gardener didn't accidentally choose this place. The forest was called the Verkina's Hand. Such a strange name appeared a long time ago. They say that even before the revolution, a lady with children lived in these places. Once her daughter Verka went into the wood for a walk, but never returned. They looked for her, combed the whole forest with dogs, and finally found only the girl's hand. But where is Verka herself, no one knows. The winds in these places are frequent, sometimes very strong, so whole, and it seems that the human voice asks, "Where, where, where?" This is Verka looking for her hand. And when the forest was thicker, sometimes someone was lost in it without a trace. Children were not allowed into the forest by their mothers, but Verka was especially warned before any terrible event, and before the war howled that the hair on your head stood on end. she demanded a victim. This policy told the Germans this story to the questions why is the forest called so strange. Since that time, the Nazis have never been there. They were a superstitious people. You can't imagine a better place for partisans. A week later, the partisans took their comrades. More and more shells exploded from the forest. They said that our tanks were located there. And then Victory Day came. The people cried, rejoiced. At the same time, everyone was waiting for the returning of their relatives from the front. Someone knocked on the door. Annie ran to open, hoping that her dad had returned from the war. But instead of that, the postman held out a funeral letter. "No, that's not true," Mom cried. "But why on this day? No, Fyodor couldn't die." She never believed in the death of her husband and waited every day. 3 days before her death, she called Annie and said, "Annie, I'm dying. I don't know a better daughter than you. Fyodor calls me. In my dream I saw him. He stands by Verkina's hand and waves to me. He smiles. Now I'm sure that he is not alive. He is calling me with him." Annie cried. How too much losses in her life. After the war, during the spring, women, children and men who came from the war cleared the fields from shell splinters. It was necessary to sow the ground. But there weren't enough miners. Annie had been lived a long and happy life. Her favorite day is May 9. That day she is doubly happy. Firstly, this is the day of our glorious victory. And secondly, her birthday. Only memories will flash occasionally. Before her eyes there is a blue bowl from which milk sips.